Yeah, okay. I think we can just start and people can still join us. And yeah, so hello everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We're here a blend of scientists, practitioners, participants of the Social Entrepreneurship School Münster. And yeah, all of us are interested in regenerative economy. So this is a masterclass from the European project Regenew, focusing on living systems, regenerative design, and eco-perception. Before we dive in, let me share some information about the project, especially if you're joining our masterclasses for the first time. So we can have a look. So yeah, this is the Regenew project aims to transition towards a regenerative economy by engaging universities. We provide professors, researchers, and students with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed for this transition. So our goal is to empower stakeholders and policymakers to turn innovative ideas into actionable solutions. So we have already had some very interesting master classes on topics like financing and value redistribution in regenerative enterprises, and about empowering in a regenerative economy through transformative technologies and innovative business models. And all of these sessions are recorded, including today's. So I encourage you to check out our website. I'll give it to you in the chat. Yeah, and today our focus is on living systems, regenerative design, and eco-perception, and how these concepts can guide us towards a regenerative economy. So we're very lucky to have Julia and Lena from Its Time with us today. Before I hand it over to you to introduce your project, I'd like to mention that they want to engage with us interactively. So feel free to collaborate and do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat.
Exactly. Thank you, Lara, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar of living system thinking. We are sisters and also co-founders from Its Time and from Münster, from Germany, where also the Applied University of Science, FH Muenster, is based. And we're super happy to be able to share what we're most passionate about and what we have most experience with, namely living system thinking. And maybe you already noticed that we kind of changed the title a little bit from living systems, regenerative design, and eco-perception to living system thinking, because also in the past years and in our academic lives, we noticed that there's so many different terms, models, theories, and complicated names, and that can be quite confusing when it's actually, in our experience and understanding, always the same aim. And if we look at it from a holistic, systemic view anyways, that we can break it down all together. And that's also what Its Time, our organization, tries to do, is really simplifying and breaking it down so that education about regeneration becomes also more accessible. But I will tell you more about Its Time later. And now just quickly, the agenda. We will start a little bit more to talk about us and Its Time, and then dive into living system thinking, what it is, why we think it's so awesome, and explain you a little bit about the principles of it and how to apply them to come into like an embodiment of regeneration, or as we call it, or many other call it, regenerative leadership, regenerative embodiment, and so on. As you can already tell, there's always many words for actually the same kind of thing. And yes, so let us start with introducing ourselves. But actually first, maybe because we're always really curious who's joining us and from where, maybe you can just quickly use the chat to tell us where you are calling in from, where you are watching us from. As I already said, yeah, well, I am based in Münster right now. Julia is in Portugal right now, joining us from there. And maybe you can also all quickly tell us where you are sitting. From the Netherlands, Rotterdam. Hello, Madeline. Oh, Janine, you're also here. That's our Galician neighbor. That's amazing.
Oh, how wonderful. Hey, everyone.
Many people from Spain. Hello, bienvenida.
Teresa Schenke, I just saw her in Ericeira. Nice to know that you're here.
And also from Germany, from Berlin. Hello, Maria. Okay, and maybe just a quick, like from 1 to 10, how much have you already learned or experienced or dove into the topic of regeneration and maybe even living system thinking? Just put us a number from 1 to 10 into the chat so we know if we. Oh, last 7. Last actually is part of its time. So he better know something about regeneration. Okay, so 2, Janine 6, 7, Lara 6, Teresa 3. Okay, it's a colorful mix, as we say in German, a bunter mix. And so let us, or maybe just also a heads up. I will be basically the talking head of its time today, and Julia will be in the background more, interacting also with you in the chat if you have any questions, and just kind of holding the space with me and Lara. And also, supporting me if I maybe lose the red thread. So if she interrupts me, that's not impolite, but wanted. So just also that. Yes. So as I already said, we are sisters, and we founded its time 2020. When we were finishing our masters. I was doing my masters in Grenoble, France, on international development and sustainability, and Julia was doing her masters in Malmö in Sweden and leadership of sustainability, and we were meeting at a permaculture farm afterwards to take a break because we were super depressed about what we learned and the state of the world, kind of the crisis that we found ourselves in economically, but also social injustice, the climate crisis. And we just had the feeling that we really needed to reflect on what our role was in this, and also taking a break to kind of digest all the things that we had learned, because we also really felt it in our nervous systems and mental health, that it was just a lot to take in. And so we went to a permaculture farm and dove into permaculture, ecology, really understanding how nature, ecosystem work, organize and collaborate, how productive nature is, even though it rests the whole winter and just starting very slow again, and how it just operates in this circular and very complex and diverse, but actually quite simple and natural and kind of way. And we really felt in love with, it sounds always so cheesy, but like with ecology and nature and things that we already kind of knew theoretically how ecosystems work. We really also felt during this year, because it was 12 months going through the seasons and cycles, and it was just a very transformative year. And we thought, understanding how disconnected our economic system and education system and social systems are from how nature operates in these principles. We're like, how would a society look like if we would design it again and co-create it again from a state of connection to nature and a state of connection to the seasons and the principles that we will dive in later. But that was kind of the purpose of founding. It's time to just go for it and try and experiment and inspire as many people as possible to go with us and to create these kind of experiences that we had in this year on this farm to as many people as possible, so that they could really connect again to nature, to the principles of it, recognize how disconnected we designed our systems from nature, and then co-create new solutions, experiment new ways of thinking, living, producing things again. And with its time, we are creating physical learning spaces that we call hope hubs, where really this kind of learning can happen. And we try to in this way democratize and de-intellectualize education, because really it's a lot just about understanding how natural laws function, how life functions, and we should all be able to do that and have the space for it, and not think in super abstract and conceptual theories that then only a small bubble can experiment and think about, because it's just not the language that everyone speaks. So that's about us.
No, non li ho ancora salvati, no.
I hear some Spanish, I think. Maybe you can mute yourself. Yes, so that's just a little illustration about the concept of the Hope Hub. So it's a physical space, and we call it a regenerative sanctuary because it's embedded into in nature, where co-learning, researching, and social innovation can happen, and people can come together and experiment with new ways of living and working. And we said living systems as our best teachers. How can we learn from nature? So it's important that these hope hubs are embedded in nature, because these are our teachers. And we added some pictures from our work to show you that it's really on the ground, kind of hands-on with people. We founded our first Hope Hub actually last year in Galicia, where Janine is our neighbor, and she's here right now, also in the room. And we met in Galician local called Manolo. You will see him in the picture here. And he's renovating an abandoned village from scratch, kind of, and the vision is to do it in a sustainable way, to use bioconstruction and permaculture, regenerative agriculture, and really circular energy systems. And we thought this is the perfect project to open our first Hope Hub and to invite people to go through this learning process of designing a regenerative village and really seeing how these principles of nature can be used find new solutions like circular energy systems, as I said, and so on, to make it really hands-on. And so that's what we have been doing since last year, organizing, opening up the Hope Hub, but and trying to set everything so that this year we can kick it off. And of course, you're all invited also to to come by, but this is not a... Yes, so let's start to dive into the content of living systems, but I think you already kind of grasped that for us, living systems, it's really just a fancy word of nature, of all living organisms. And there's a lot of wonderful scientific books where you can learn about the non-linear mathematics, quantum physics of how living systems function. Two recommendations is the Gaia hypothesis and the Systems View of Life, the book. And but really, our stance on this, that you can learn all of that, and you are more than invited, but you can also, in a much more embodied or simple way, connect with nature and with your own whole being, because you are yourself a living system and made of many, many living systems. Your digestion system is a living system, your nervous system is a living system, and these are all making your own, like your whole living system. So one big principle that we will come to in just a minute is that living systems are always nested wholes. So the digestion system is already whole in itself, but it's nested into bigger living systems, which is then the body, which is then the environment of your body. And this is where you can see that you can just connect with your own living system, basically, or the nature around you, to learn. And then, of course, have the theory next to it. But that is our approach, and we call that experiential learning about regeneration, really connected to your own life, to your own body, and to nature. And we really see living system thinking, to really think in these living systems principle that we come to, as an amazing tool to recognize the patterns that we operate in. Our culture is made of many, many different invisible patterns, which are cultural norms, belief systems, values, behavioral and thought patterns. And what we basically based our economic system also on are these belief systems that there are not enough resources, so that we have to compete. That's the consequence of that belief systems, and which is very extractive, because we are extracting from all the time, without a limit, from our natural resources, from our own living resources, which the consequences are a lot of stress for the earth, for ourselves. And it's more of a perception that the world, nature, and ourselves, we are mechanistic individuals that we can just extract and use from, because that's kind of the perception, which is in contrast to what we call, or what this webinar also, the first title was eco-perception, because that is the perception that we perceive the world and nature and us as interconnected living systems that are alive, because we are interdependent, that we hurt when we extract so much from nature, because we extract from ourselves. It's a whole different way of seeing the world and interacting with the natural world and ourselves, really recognizing the right to exist in safety and peace without pain, due to this extraction. And the living system thinking principles are great, because if you know them, we will now go through them. you can recognize when you fall into the extractive mindset, into the extractive belief systems and values, and really try to have the observation, to zoom out and to see, okay, was this decision now made from an extractive belief system or value, or am I in this regenerative perception and mindset? And what can I do to now to shift from extractive to regenerative? And as we all know, changing habits and patterns is very, very difficult. So these principles, if you have it in your bedroom, on your mirror, the vision is to have it in every school, in every university, in every company, that they really remind us this is how living systems, how nature would do it now, would take this decision now. So maybe try to do the same, because nature in itself is regenerative, is life-serving, is life-giving, it builds up resources. So if you also want to build up your resources, then decide based on these principles. So yes, this is just a summary for people who are watching it afterwards. So living systems, basically a set of principles to become aware of the deep-rooted patterns of our personal and societal degenerative culture, a tool to transition into the regenerative paradigm, because you are more and more able to think, live, learn, and lead in harmony with the natural laws, how nature would do all of that. And also it guides you into not only knowing, but also a feeling that you are embedded into the ecology, that you really perceive yourself ecologically inside the big web of life. And yes, so that is also the goal of living system thinking. And of course, joy, life is joyful, life is for the living, what we always say, living. And so it's also a great reminder. It doesn't have to be always. Okay, and so let's start with the principles. I said applied living system thinking here, just so that it's crystal clear that living system thinking is always it's always applied. You always have to apply these principles to your decisions, to your way of thinking. So it's not purely intellectual. It's always connected with actions, with your emotions, with your senses, which is also very different from our current thinking right now, which is often purely in our heads, purely intellectual. So the applied part is actually quite important, but we sometimes leave it out in the title. So moving to the principles of living systems, living system thinking is principle-based. And what does it mean? It means that this is not a way of thinking or a learning or teaching which is about solely memorizing or teaching models, equations, and finished ideas. It's really about using these principles as a tool to think for your own, to go through your own process of sense making, and to understand it, with all you've got, heart, and body. But I already said that as well. And you'll see the first principles here. And let's dive into the first one, which I already said in the beginning briefly, that it's living systems are always nested wholes, and about interdependence, that we've become so individualistic and so split up in fragmentation in our way of teaching and learning. The classes are often disconnected from each other. There's not a transdisciplinary approach. It's we think in fragments, or now it's changing again, which is amazing, but we still are very fragmented in our ways of thinking, even though fragments don't, I mean, separation doesn't exist in nature, in living systems thinking. And yeah, as an example, it's you see the circles, that you are always, I mean, if you are the self in the middle, then you are always influenced by the circles, by the systems around yourself, by your family system, friend system, by the country and culture that you were grown up in, then in the global systems that influence your local culture. And we sometimes think they all don't influence each other, or that they don't depend on each other, and that, but it's, yeah, they are all kind of, it matters what happens in each system, because there are ripple down effects into the other systems that we are influenced by. And so yes, that's the first big principle. And the second one is self-regulation. We always explain living systems in the example of the forest. Forests are, yeah, many different nested holes, different trees, bushes, and rankende plants. I don't know actually the English word. And animals coming together and creating this whole system of many different plants to come together, and they are self-regulating themselves. If trees on a system level, which means that that there is competition with the sun and the water, but on a system level, if they, for example, some trees, or if there's not a lot of water in the season, and the forest knows we have to save water and we have to be really efficient, then the roots of the plants, they help each other out with nutrition, with waters, and so on, because they know they, as a system, they have to survive, and they want to survive. Well, it's just how systems deal with crisis, to collaborate and to self-regulate as a system. The other part, and the next principle, is diversity versus monoculture. And diversity really, just again with the example of the forest, helps also the resilience of the whole system. The more elements we have in a living system, the more resilient it gets, and the more potential it has, because every system has their own qualities to give and to share and to contribute. And the same with human living systems, with teams. If we recognize this principle and we apply it, and we really appreciate and we work with the diversity in a team, then everyone can bring their unique skills, personalities, and characteristics to the table, and make the whole project more resilient and more thriving. And the same is when we go to a micro level and looking at our own diversity. If we allow ourselves to express all the diversity that we find in ourselves, in terms of emotions and characteristics and desires, then we become the most alive. If we suppress some parts that society doesn't really like or doesn't really appreciate so much, and we don't allow it to unfold, to express, then we're not in our most alive state, alive version. And the same goes for teams and for forests. But forests, they do it without thinking, so that's great. And the next principle is self-expression. And all of the principles are, as you can probably already tell, they're all connected, and it doesn't really matter with which principle you start your journey of living system thinking or the application of it, because they are all connected anyways, which makes it an even greater practice for system thinking, because just by learning living system thinking, you have to connect anyways, and you see the relationships and the connections among the principles anyways. So self-expression is a big principle, and because living systems, they just are. Nature just is. A bird just sings, and it doesn't think about, maybe my song today is not so nice, I'm not gonna sing. Or the flowers doesn't think, I'm not so pretty today, I will just keep home when the sun is out. They can't, but just open up. So this is how living systems work, and this is how they become the most alive. And we kind of forgot that, or not forgot, but unlearned that, to really be safe in our, or the conditions are not there, that we can be safe in our self-expressions, to really just sing our songs, to share what we have to share, and to show ourselves. So yeah, this is just a reminder from nature that it's a huge principle of thriving ecosystems, and cheering you on to come more into self-expression. So the next principle, the spiral dynamics and circularity, because a spiral in itself is inherently circular, is in contrary to our current economic system or belief system, that everything is linear and that we have to solve this problem that we have here in the most efficient way and produce the whole time in order to stay competitive. The spiral and circularity teaches us to stop, to pause, to let go, to really see where we hit a boundary, whether that's our own or the planetary boundaries, and then learn from it and take the curve and integrate it, and just using the resources that are there, and not just pressuring through the boundaries. It's really a teaching about boundaries, and creating no waste, because in a circular economy, everything, or in living systems also, everything is reused and used to become more alive and more nourished. In the example of the forest, for example, the leaves, here in the northern hemisphere, the leaves fall and they're used by the ground, by the soil, by the roots, to make the forest and the ground even more nutritious, more stable, more alive, for the next circle to have what they need, the nutritions to shine again, to have the flowers again. So it's just a really efficient way of resource management, and knowing your boundaries. And I would say the principle that is least applied, or that just our economic systems is just not designed in a way that we are able to apply this principle, because then it's very difficult to stay competitive. But yes, so let's move on to the next principle, and that is the potential. Living systems, they they always move towards the potential, towards the systemic potential. And that's a contrary to the current, or that many people focus on the problem and then move towards solving the problem. And if you are, the difference between that is that if you move towards potential, you are in creation mode. You become, you allow yourself to become creative, and that's a life-affirming state. And if you move towards a problem, you are extracted already, and you find yourself already in just thinking about the problem, and you are not solution oriented. And living systems wouldn't approach a problem like that. They would shift to the potential mindset and ask themselves, how can we look at the problem in a different way, and what is the actual potential behind it, to then again also connect to the spiral, to use this learning and to integrate it, and to move towards higher potential and aliveness. So that's I think one of the last principles that we have in this presentation, and it's emergence. And it's, again, very connected to the others. It's about creating really the space for these for these processes to unfold, and to let things unfold, to really trust in your ability to self-express, and to know that how can I say, that the parts of one system are bigger than the parts itself. For example, when we talk about a team emergence, that everyone who is coming to work in the team, that this team can create something bigger than everyone individually, because there's a space that was created by everyone that allowed bigger things to unfold, and that is called emergence. And it has a lot to do also with trust and allowing, which is the contrary to controlling. And it has it is connected also to the belief, or the principle of uniqueness and essence of living systems, that every group, or every living system, everyone has a sense and a uniqueness to itself that is kind of just waiting to be unfolded, to be expressed in this emergent way. So if we just allow it, individually or all together, this principle really works, and something bigger is coming out of it, which again is also connected to the potential, because we are trusting in the potential and in our creation mode. So let's see what, yes, and then we call these qualities accompanying qualities, but they can also be called soft principles or something like that. But it's really qualities that you develop when you apply living system thinking, that you develop, but also that are the goal or that shows the potential that you can develop when you interact with living system thinking and the principles of it. Because first of all, the awareness, you have to be aware in order to know where you are right now, in which pattern. Are you in the extractive or in the regenerative pattern? Where are you taking your decisions from? So without awareness and your observation skills and zooming out, kind of become aware of all these patterns in your way of thinking and in your culture around you, this way of thinking cannot be applied. So that's a huge quality that you will develop. And patience as well, and compassion for yourself, which is connected to develop more love also for yourself, acceptance, because you will recognize that changing these belief systems inside of you, but also outside of you, is very difficult. And so showing compassion to yourself and others, and acceptance is also a quality that you will have to develop in order to become a good living system thinker. And also trust. For example, if you apply the emergence or the potential principle, you really feel that, I mean, speaking for myself, sometimes that, but I have to control this outcome. I mean, if everyone is coming and I don't have the perfect plan, or you really have to develop a sense of trust in yourself and for others, that there is something that wants to self-express if the conditions are right. And it's a beautiful, for me, it's a beautiful recognition to see that this quality really develops the more you interact with living system thinking, and together with also bravery, that you become more comfortable in this way of thinking and demand other people to treat you differently according to your boundaries, because you apply the spiral to yourself and so on. Because I mean, living in an extractive culture and working in organizations that are part of this economy, you really tackle the culture and the people's belief systems, values, and standing up for something new. Also, requires some bravery for yourself, and that's also a beautiful quality that can be developed. And and the last one is emotional maturity, and together with learning about your body, about your emotions, because of course belief systems, values are directly connected with emotions, and learning new ways of treating yourself, others, and the planet can trigger your nervous system to feel really unsafe. And interacting with this way of thinking and then acting according to it requires you to be able to regulate your nervous system yourself, to really understand your body, to connect with your emotions, to listen to it, to listen to it, so that you only know where are your boundaries, to communicate it. So it's also connected with awareness. They are all connected again, but it's a beautiful quality also that is coming with interacting with these principles. And so together, like knowing the principles and acting according to it, and actually feeling that these qualities develop in yourself and in your relationships, in your relationship with yourself, with others, and with the planet, with the earth. That's what we call, and I mean many others, coming into regenerative embodiment. That without the embodiment, again, without the application, living system thinking stays intellectual, stays in a bubble, where we don't really see embodied change. Embodiment comes through acting differently, through feeling differently. And many also say that the regenerative paradigm is not birthed, not created by us, but through us. So really through the embodiment and through talking, communicating, acting differently, and yeah, changing the system through embodiment. And there are grounding practices, nervous system releases. There's many ways to do that, from moving, dancing, shaking, meditating, community activities, being in nature, sports. There's everyone is very individually in the embodiment practices. And we believe, that community support and exchange is key. Again, to the first principles, we are all nested wholes in a big living system, interdependent. And actually, the awareness also comes through relationships, through resonance, from my own body, from others' reactions. So you can only live and learn in relationships. So the community part is very, very important when it comes to living system thinking. And that's also why we think that these like our hop-ups, but also learning, should happen more in relationships, in community, in listening to each other, in not only listening to people, but also listening to other living systems, the trees, the plants, the animals. And of course, it's a different kind of listening, but it will lead us also to the qualities that are important for embodiment, and bring us into this feeling of being embedded in ecology. And yes, so we believe that empowering education is principle based because it's self-responsible, and it's not finished ideas that we learn, but it's really this own process of sense making and becoming responsible throughout that process. And that the role of teachers or facilitators should be to just guide the students through these processes, and to help them apply, support them, cheer them on to apply the principles already applied in the classrooms, in the groups of learning, to create a safe, or we call safe, brave space for the students to self-express, to really trust that emergence will happen, and that beautiful things unfold when we release a little bit of the control, and let living systems work its wonders, where we are all part of, and where we all have the principles inside of us. So it's just a matter of kind of recognizing the principles again, and having the spaces to learn that and to experience that again. And that's what we do at its time and at the Hope Hubs. And there's a lot of literature to read further, but here are some of our favorites. It's a mix between more scientific and very hands-on, and also indigenous ways of finding the words for it, connecting with the body. The last book, for example, My Body, My Earth. It's really beautiful. And if you have more questions about literature and the principles and everything, we still have 6 minutes. And thank you so much for that you are here, Julia, and for holding space, and everyone for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, you both. And for me it was very inspiring to see all the principles, and to also get a practical view on it. Yeah, so are there still some questions, some topics to discuss? So you can ask in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just start a discussion.
And if not now, you can always contact us later or come visit in Galicia.
Thank you very much for this invitation. Yeah, so yeah, we also recorded it. So I think there are some people who gonna have a look on it later, especially yeah, people from the social entrepreneurship school and also other interested people. There's a question. So I hand it over to Julia. So if you want to.
Yes, Lars Richter, thank you for your question. He asked, how can we bring these principles to cities where most people live and will be living in the future?
Good question. Should I try to share my thoughts, or does anybody want to open this discussion?
Maybe you can start and maybe it will.
Yes. I believe that these principles actually it doesn't really matter where you are to start applying them. Because really, I mean, it's a way of thinking and a way of recognizing and being aware and relating to yourself and others in nature. Of course, to being in a rural setting or in nature is much more easy to start the process and to observe nature and to have a little bit of silence that you don't really have in big cities so much. But I mean, there are parks and there are trees. And I think, or what we also tell our the people that we learn with, and that they can start with a house plant or sit with it, or go to the park, observe trees, just look at the world in a from this living systems lens, and become aware of the principles and just try to apply them in your own relationships, with practicing your boundaries, in your ideation process. If you work in a city and you work in companies, you can bring these principles into your company. It's really just about creating awareness and trying to practice them wherever you are. So I think it will be more difficult to manifest it in big cities, but yeah, the more people there are, the faster, and that's again the potential of the cities. Julia, you wanted to say something?
I was just thinking about our stepsister who's living in a small apartment in New York City, and she's trying really hard to apply these principles to her life. And you really don't need anything except for yourself. And as Hannah said, you are many nested holes or many living systems actually. So you can start observing your body, for example. So yes, I think it's more difficult to get yourself this time and the space in an urban environment because there's so much going on. But it's definitely possible and very accessible because you only need yourself. Thank you, Lars.
All right. Yeah, then looking at the time, it's already 2. So I would say, yeah, thank you very much again, you both. And yeah, thank you to everyone for your participation and the discourse. Yeah, to learn more about regenerative economy and Regenew, follow us on social media. You can see it also. We have a file with our website and LinkedIn. And yeah, so in the end, yeah, finally, we're posting a link to a survey in the chat. So yeah, please take a moment to fill out the survey. It doesn't take long, but it helps us to develop the project and the masterclasses further. So yeah, thank you all. And yeah, see you somewhere.
See you.
Welcome,
Thank
Laura.
you, Laura. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Happy applying.